You're locked on to Hans Olsen and Scotty Chin.
That's right. Yeah!
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone here at Tim Daly Mazda Southtown. I want you to stop by and say hi. I've got a couple more donuts left. We got a big old box of candy with all the Snickers and Twix, and apparently not 100 grands, though. Mark's upset about that. But we got a lot of good food for you. We got incredible savings and a great sales staff that's ready to help you out. They need to move 20 vehicles by tomorrow night. And that means that you will get the deal of a lifetime if you stop by here. But plus, they still have the pre-tariff pricing as well. So come on down, say hi. It is Tim Daly Mazda Southtown on Automall Drive. Well, the Big 12 meetings continue on. Mark Harlan addressing the media and was immediately asked if the university is ready for the House settlement and ready to divvy money directly to the players.
Yeah, we feel very good about where we're at. We've been working on it for well over a year. We've had working groups internally looking at how we're going to distribute revenue. We certainly are going to be at the max at the University of Utah, thanks to our great donors, our great administrative support. So we're excited about it. We still have a few tweaks we need to do. We're still learning. Going back to these meetings, it's helpful with that. As far as the most recent tagging of young people that maybe lost their roster spots because of this, we're certainly working with what we put forward in the settlement to do that. It doesn't affect too many athletes at the University of Utah, but those that do, working with our coaches, we plan on hopefully having them back.
Regarding balancing budgets across Olympic sports and revenue generators like football and basketball, what's maybe kind of your honest criteria for prioritization going forward?
Well, I think that obviously you have to make sure you invest in the sports that are generating revenue, because as such, that revenue is spread amongst the entire department. So we need to make sure football and men's basketball in particular are very healthy in this environment so that they can thrive. Again, we've seen it with football over these last few years. Continuing to maintain a sellout is critical for every student athlete in the organization, and certainly with Alex now here at men's basketball, the opportunity to fill up Huntsman Center more profoundly with the work that he's going to put forth is also important. But we also want to make sure that where we can add scholarships, which we will be in multiple other sports, that everyone, I should say every program is benefiting in some sort of fashion.
And what's some of the plan for the athletic department when it comes to revenue streams that don't come at the expense of fans and donors?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's it's very important that we look at revenue streams very creatively. But it would be disingenuous for me to say that we're not going to have to continue to look at every possibility, but at the same time keeping pricing so that we can involve everybody. But it would be disingenuous for me to suggest we're not going to look at increases in certain areas, but we're always going to be very smart about it. But at the same time, to your question, new revenue streams are being contemplated, and that's been really fun. We brought in a chief revenue officer, that has really looked at different things, stuff we haven't thought of before. We have a president who's very entrepreneurial, a former, business school dean, and so we work very closely with he and his team and my team to look at all the different things that we haven't contemplated before, and I think we've already seen some real uplift from that.
How much does Brett Yormark in these meetings talk about revenue streams and getting creative for all the different institutions? Well,
he's terrific. I mean, he's so skilled at that. He's such a great, thoughtful business person, and obviously, I think one of the reasons why he got this job a few years ago. So you could say he's a perfect guy for this time. He's already bringing corporate partners that hadn't been contemplated in the conference before. Many of them are here with dynamic new partnerships that will be distributed amongst the schools. So anything that the center can do, i.e. the conference, to assist in these times is just absolutely critical.
Wanted to talk, you brought up Alex is here and caught up with him and excitement for Utah basketball. And I wanted to talk about the Huntsman Center. What's the latest there that you can provide an update on the Huntsman Center? Well, as far as Alex goes, we're excited that he is here. He's learning. This was probably drinking out of the fire hose a little bit about college athletics, but he's very thoughtful. He's surrounded himself with just a great team of coaches, but also administrative personnel. And so we'll go back to Salt Lake. We'll download on everything. Wade is here too. We'll do the same.
And I would say with Alex, he's a quick learner. I think Wes Wilcox, as general manager, is going to be dynamic in terms of navigating this new landscape. We've already seen that with the roster reconstruction. So I think that all of those things are going to really work well in our favor.
To follow up, how important is non-conference scheduling? I know football, it's well documented. ADs have a lot of involvement on that. Men's basketball, are you as involved in that, or is that more Wes and Alex Jensen?
Well, it's a team effort, right? A couple different things going on, right? We're moving back from 20 conference games to 18, so you got 2 more to fill. Plus, they added 32 to games, so we got 3 non-conference games. And because Alex and Wes are new in this process, and also Ralph Chilius, who's on the staff, a great scheduler, we're going to all work together on that. We will be announcing some scheduling here shortly, but the one thing I really appreciate about the staff is they get after it.
What is being done to kind of maximize brand awareness for Utah athletics going forward in this era where revenue's all in the forefront, but just enhancing the brand of Utah?
It's always important. The brand is not just athletics, it's the entire department. There's an incredible central planning process in that, and all the work that Andrea and her team do, and also my team. But I think the brand is something that you don't sit back every day and look at. You try to move it forward. Obviously, with our student athletes, the kind of young people we have competing for us, their success both in the community, in the classroom, and of course in competition, add to that brand. We certainly saw that with success of our department, Rose Bowls, ski championships, gymnastics, etc. And that's our obligation, but high integrity is also really important. But right now, the brand of Utah is high. We just got to keep climbing.
Last thing for you, Mark. You served in the College Football Playoff Committee a few years ago, and the College Football Playoff format for 2026 and beyond is a hot topic in all these conference spring meetings across the country. What's your preferred format? I know there's been talks about 5+11 reports out there for the Big 12. What do you prefer?
Well, we're going to get together with our football coaches actually right after this interview, and I want to really listen to what they're thinking about. I am a proponent. My own philosophy is, it should be decided on the field, and I think that when we all different conferences meet, they'll all get back together. The commissioners, there's a lot of conflict out there as we speak today, but I think at the end of the day, it's going to be a philosophy as one on the field. We'll see. Obviously, it's a governance process in that. I'm for the expansion of it. I think that would be really good to have more teams involved in this sport that continues to grow. I have high belief in the committee, not just because I was on it and saw how much work, but I believe there's great people every year on that committee. But I hope where it all ends up, whether it's a straight 16 or or perhaps a 5-11, I think that's the best way to go. But we'll see what our coaches have to say as well.
There he is, Mark Harlan with Mitch Harper, who's doing a bang-up job down there, really working hard, not just covering BYU, but getting conversations from the Utah side as well. So big thanks to him for making that happen down there at Big 12 meetings. But, Mark Harlan, there's a couple of things there. First off, when the House settlement does hit, he says Utah will be a max contributor, which is just a little north of $21 million. So that is good news if you're a Utah fan, knowing that you've got donors and you've got a university that's committed to distributing those funds at the highest level that they're legally allowed to do so.
Yeah, now let's just figure out what their distribution is. That's the hard thing. How do you distribute it? What does that mean for other organizations? Who do you boot out? And who do you pay? And how much do you pay? Because I think about it, let's just say that there's a Hance University, and I've got $21 million to distribute amongst maybe 18 different sports.
Yeah.
24 different sports. I'm probably sitting down with my group and saying, well, what do we want to do here? I think maybe the best thing we do is keep men's football, men's basketball, women's basketball, and women's volleyball. And I think we cut everything else. What, sir? What? Why? Well, because everything else drains us.
Yes. Yep.
But what are we trying to do here?
You're more than happy to create club sports for those other teams.
We'll sanction some things, and we'll make it convenient, and we'll allow them to wear logos, and they can pay their own way. But we're going to have women's volleyball, women's basketball, men's basketball, and football. That's it.
Track and field, swimming,
No, sorry.
skiing.
I'm sorry.
No.
We'll help Utah athletes get ready for the Olympics through multiple forms of on track and field, and We'll try to keep them viable, but we will no longer fund those departments. But Scotty, is that even a conversation that a university can have?
Oh, those conversations are going like crazy, and it's going to take a big-time school to do it, and then the dominoes are going to fall. It's like anything else. Somebody's got to be the bad guy, and as soon as somebody ends up being the bad guy, then everybody's going to fall into line. It was like when COVID hit, and you're like, okay, as soon as some team out there or somebody's had their mass layoffs, and then everybody else did their layoffs. But there's going to be, whether it's Ohio State, who's actually kind of hinted that they might go down that path, or some of these a big-time Power 5 program that said, we're investing in these 4 or 5 sports, and then everything else is going club. We're not going to do it. We're getting away from it, and then watch the dominoes fall. But I've had multiple athletic directors tell me this is coming.
Okay,
the exact scenario you're describing with the exact sports is coming.
Well, let me tell you why this has got to be a big conversation, and why I would probably be the first to do it. Because if I'm not paying 620 athletes a distribution of $21 million, but I'm paying 180 a distribution of $21 million, that's a big difference. I'm going to pay as few athletes as I can. I'm going to make sure the ones I'm paying are bringing the money back to me.
Yep.
As a university. And it's a horrible thing to say, because, we were watching women's softball yesterday and
loving every second of it.
Yeah, Tennessee and Oklahoma going back and forth, and it was a walk-off. Yeah, this is ridiculous that we're talking about. But it was a walk-off home run, brought in 3 runs, and Oklahoma beat Tennessee after Tennessee led from the first inning. And this was the bottom of the 7th. It was awesome. It was fun. I mean, you and I sat there and watched it on TV, and you did play-by-play for it, and we had fun with it, honestly.
I had a blast.
Well, that's going to go away.
It's going to go away.
Because it's not a draw. Maybe some universities can keep it as a draw. Maybe some universities break even.
And maybe, look.
But even then, I'm having to give a chunk of the pie to them.
Yeah. Or, you said volleyball. Somebody may not want volleyball, but they'll keep their women's softball team. Everybody's going to pick and choose their individual teams. But, yeah, you're going to see 2 or 3 men's sports and 2 or 3 women's sports. And that's it.
Because if I've got $21 million to distribute, and I've got 4 teams that I'm paying out and their athletes, and BYU's like, hey, come here. Then I come here. Oh, we've got gymnastics, we've got swimming, we've got diving, we've got track and field, we've got – I don't care about that.
Nope.
I'm a men's basketball player.
Yep.
So does that water down? Does that take away from my $21 million that you can distribute, that is now regulated, that now I can tag with some name, image, and likeness, but that's going to be more monitored? I'm going to have to cut down my distribution so that my big athletes that are big names that are fueling the wins for my men's basketball and my football, that's primary.
Yeah.
And to keep Title IX happy, I've got to make sure that I've got equal balanced women's sports, which would be women's basketball and women's volleyball.
Yeah. Or, no volleyball but softball, or whatever. You'll figure that out. You'll analyze who has the better chance of making money at our university. But the 4 that you mentioned are primarily your big 4. And frankly, it's probably volleyball, probably your big 3 is men's basketball, obviously men's football, and then women's basketball. And then, sometimes you'll have like a Nebraska where the volleyball team's really good, but the women's basketball team is not that good. They'll make more money.
Or Texas and Oklahoma, whose softball is really dang good.
So everybody will kind of pick and choose.
Utah, who's gymnastics.
Exactly.
They're women's gymnastics.
Great point. Absolutely spot on.
So you'd have to figure that out.
What gives you the most chance to at least have a sport that draws, at least can break even? Because you can't have, in this day and age, a track and field team who, for, purposes of it's good to have a track and field team, well, guess what? If they're not making money, they got to go.
Well, my best friend's daughter plays rugby for BYU. And I went out to her game. It's women's rugby. Who even knew that BYU had a women's rugby team?
Until you just mentioned that, I didn't know that.
But they do. And they've got their BYU logos, and they play on the BYU field, and it's awesome. And it was a great event. But it's not sanctioned. There aren't scholarships. It's not – it is affiliated with the university, and they do a good job. They bring in other women's rugby teams, and they pit them together, and they make the financial contributions that they can, and they try to do what they can to promote it.
But no scholarships.
But yeah, no scholarships.
Yeah.
And that's what I would do moving forward. And that's hard to say because that's going to be a lot of scholarships taken. But this is what is fueling college sports now. And if I'm going to be competitive in football and Ohio State's paying out 4 team rosters and I'm trying to pay out 22, that's going to water me down.
Because you need your football players and your basketball players making the most money.
Yeah.
And you can't lose money from a track and field team and siphon money away from them. It's just not going to work.
That's how I see it. But
I and a lot of athletic directors agree with you. It's just who's going to be that bad guy that's going to call up your track and field coach and the players. Like, look, Mark Harlan had to have that conversation with, was it the women's lacrosse?
It was women's lacrosse.
And where he had to say, look, I'm sorry, but we're not sanctioning your sport anymore.
I was at BYU
wrestling, right?
When they went to the wrestling and men's gymnastics. They cut wrestling and men's gymnastics in the same year. That would have been about 1998. And Mark Schultz was the wrestling coach at the time.
I wouldn't want to tell that guy anything.
Well, there were rumors that went crazy through the university of how he handled it, and it wasn't good. And, you ended up cutting a couple programs back in the 90s in order to be Title IX compliant, if I remember right. I think that was the genesis of them having to cut those programs. But, yeah, there's going to be some people that are going to receive some bad news, but you've got to make sure that your football and basketball programs are stocked with the money they need to be stocked with. Sorry, it was just the conversation of how you distribute that I thought was most interesting.
Yeah.
From Mark Harlan.
Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
The wheel is loaded, and it's time to talk some sports. This is Sports Roulette with Hans and Scotty on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Tim Daly, Mazda Southtown, Automall Drive. That's where you need to be either today or tomorrow. They got to move some vehicles, which means you get to take advantage of it. It's the end of the month, and they're not messing around here, folks. They're doing some deals that they will not do come Monday when it rolls over into June. Hard to believe we're halfway through the year. Football's coming, man. It's coming.
Yeah, so is the big 5-0. It's coming quick.
Oh, we're a ways away from that.
It's crazy how fast time goes, Scotty.
How old am I going to be this year?
48.
Yeah.
48.
Because you just hit
you guys were still
right?
40.
Yeah, well,
38.
Doesn't matter, Lloyd. All we know is you're young, way younger than us.
Yeah.
Whippersnapper. I'll bet Lloyd knew that New Balance was cool.
Oh, I bet he did.
And then
Yeah, me and my flat-brimmed hat. Yes. That I'm wearing backwards right now.
Lloyd's all excited because Taylor Swift got her library back. And New Balances are back in.
Oh, Lloyd was so excited to see Chalamet courtside with Jenner.
Who doesn't love themselves some Timothy Chalamet? Come on.
Meanwhile, me and Bowler are talking about Loretta Swit.
Yeah.
Dying at 87 years old.
With some, depth and level of knowledge of it,
I
too.
know. His level of knowledge about MASH is scary.
Well, he went on for a bit.
It's almost like he almost had to save him from himself a little bit. Like, this isn't helping our cause here.
Yep.
The fact that you know this and the fact that I'm here agreeing with you, I'm like, oh, man. Getting old. All right. Let's get to it. Sports Roulette. Lloyd, fire up that wheel.
Big 12 is still making some money.
Yes, they are.
So Brett Yormark announced at the Big 12 meetings that the Big 12 is going to be distributing $558 million to its member schools. Over $500 million that's going to be distributed in a single year. It's a conference record high, and that puts you close to $35 million per school in distribution. You know,
Is BYU still half? Where are they at percentage-wise?
they're just above half, and this is the final year of partial membership.
Okay.
So they'll be full members next year. So from what I understand, they're going to be collecting about $20 million this year.
Yeah.
So it would be $35 million, but because you've still got partial members, I think UCF is still partial, and Houston, I think, is still partial, and BYU is still partial. So one more year, they'll get the full distribution, and I think that the numbers work out closer to $40 million per full member this year.
Yeah.
And it should jump quite a bit for BYU next year.
And by the way, 20 is a lot more than they were banking as an independent too. So,
yeah, I've seen different independent guesses between 8 and 11 million.
yeah. And I think it was. I think they were pushing 10. I think if not that or slightly over by the end of it.
Yeah.
And say, oh, you're a partial member and you're still doubling up what you were making before. Yeah, that's pretty good.
It's got to be pretty maddening to them because all 4 corner schools were full members instantly.
Yeah,
right?
Which is fair.
Yeah.
They were.
They had the leverage.
Yeah, that makes sense.
There was the need. Because they had other opportunities. They could have stayed in the Pac-12.
Yeah.
One of them with Oregon State and Washington. One of the options was stay in the Pac. They had some different ways to go about it. So I understand it, but that's got to be maddening to BYU's front office. They're like, another year, and Arizona State and Utah, and everybody's getting a full check,
And we're getting half.
wouldn't you could see how that'd be irritating.
Yeah, but also, too, it's like, okay, well, they came from a Power 5. You just got invited to a Power 5.
Yep.
And Utah had to go, 4 years to ramp up
Was it
to
a
a full membership.
Was it 4? Was it 5?
I think it went 0, 25, 50, 75, and then a full.
Yeah, it was a ramp up for them to get there for the Pac-12. So they paid their dues.
Yeah, they went through it. So I know BYU fans don't like it, and I think Utah fans are like, well, at least you're not a full member yet. But guess what? That's leaving here pretty soon. So those days of rubbing people's nose in that is coming to an end. All right, go ahead and spin it, Lloyd.
So, which national parks should Hans and Scotty visit?
Well, you and I are going to be down there for the Summer Olympics.
Yes.
So why not? The Utah Summer Olympics are going to be exciting.
Utah Summer Games.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it, man.
When are we heading down there? Is that
I
next
think
month?
it's Friday.
Next Friday?
Yeah, a week from today.
Hotels are ready?
I believe so. Let's hope so.
Well, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Utah Summer Games coming up. By the way, you can get your tickets. Go to and they are going to have, by the way, some festivities that are just going to be absolutely incredible. The opening ceremonies, June 6th, Southern Utah University's live music, and the biggest fireworks show in Summer Games history. Tickets available at tbirdtickets.com. That's tbirdtickets.com. Come on, hang out with me and Hans. We'll be down doing the show coming up a week from today.
Spin it one more time.
Pascal Siakam.
So Pascal Siakam got sideways with a reporter in the postgame. For those of you that don't know, Pascal Siakam is one of the main engines that's driving Indiana. And they were sitting down in the postgame. New York had just got the win, extending the series. And a line of questioning came in that he didn't like.
They played harder than us, I think. I think they played harder than us. Loose balls, like rebounds, like all that. We got to be able to win that battle.
Pascal, can you make sense of it for those of us who don't play this game at this level? Like, what was at stake, and you're saying they played harder than you guys, you didn't fight them hard enough. How is that possible?
What do you mean?
How is it possible to not fight hard enough in games?
What are you talking about? They played harder than us. It's okay. We played hard, but they played harder. What's your point? I don't get it.
My point is, you're saying you guys got out-fought, and I'm saying...
That happens in the game, though. That's basketball.
In game 5, we didn't play one? You're saying...
You're good, bro? You're looking for something, I know, but damn. No, but I'm telling you, though. I told you. What else you want me to tell you?
I want you to tell me how. That's all I'm asking.
Well, what about you tell me? So go ahead. Who's this guy? What's your name, bro?
Greg Doyle with the Indy Star.
Oh.
Good?
Oh. You guys have a good night? You have a good night too, bro.
I think it's fair. Like, and he even prefaced it by saying, for those of us that haven't played the game, especially at that level,
How do you get
how does that happen?
hustled?
How does that because he's asking about the intangibles. He's saying that, so he's going, they played harder than us. Okay, you're telling, all right, so tell Joe Schmuckatelli, who works a 9 to 5, making $45,000 a year, worrying about how he's going to pay for his kids' braces, and his one thing that he loves is watching your team play basketball. That's the one escape he has, and he has loved every second of this ride you're on. But you're going to tell him on this night, you guys didn't try as hard as the other team. How does that happen?
How much did you make this year, Pascal? $48 million. So you're telling me that what you just pick and choose when you work the hardest?
Yeah. And he gets upset. He goes, well, that's just basketball. Okay. Is it? So you're saying on any given night, another team's going to outwork you?
So I think Pascal got put into a corner. I think that he was trying to give New York some credit and just say, hey, they came out and they played harder than us. I think he was trying to extend them some credit and then just get done with the interview and move on.
Yeah.
Just give some stupid response and move on, because that happens. He just lost. He's ticked. He wants to give them theirs and then get to bed and see if he can pick up a win on Saturday and finish this thing tomorrow. And I could see it. Here's the problem. This is what the problem is. This guy, Greg Doyle, this is the guy that got sideways with
Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he works in Indy. He works with the Indy Star. He's the one that flashed the heart sign at Caitlin Clark. He got suspended for 2 weeks from the Star and reprimanded pretty harshly.
Yeah, and that was bad.
And everybody wanted their pound of flesh. It was stupid. They wanted their pound of flesh. But now everybody's like, well, this is the dummy. So this is on him. This is the dummy doing dummy things again. This one's not that.
No, it's fair.
In my opinion, it's not that. If this was Tony Jones or any Jazz beat writer asking this, I would be like, okay, I get it. It's a great question. If Tony Jones was asking Keontae George in a postseason post-game, so Keontae, you said that they out-hustled you? They worked harder? What do you mean? Because there's a lot of Jazz fans that paid $1,800 to be row 4 of this game here at the Delta Center. They didn't pay for you to get outworked. What do you mean they tried harder?
I love that you guys are taking this angle, by the way, because not a lot of people are.
To me, it makes sense. Like, I don't know why you would be mad at a reporter for this.
The only reason anybody could be mad is because you look at Pascal and he's like, Pascal's just trying to get done with it and give New York some credit and get away from it. But he kind of leaned into it. He said, well, what do you mean played harder? You know what I mean. I would have said, you know what I mean.
It's basketball, bro.
No, I don't know what you mean. What do you mean? Well, I might have phrased that the wrong way. They came out here in an elimination situation. They were going to be eliminated. They were going to go home. It's in front of their crowd. We'll get back to our crowd. We'll be fine in Game 6. Believe me.
Yeah. That's all you got to do.
Yeah, but I think then he got offended, and then he was ticked, and he's like, who are you? What are you digging for? I don't have a real issue with the line of questioning.
I don't. Not at all. Because I think we live in a world, and trust me, I'm as guilty as anybody, where we throw out crutch questions and players give out crutch answers. And I think it's a crutch answer to say, oh, yeah, they outplayed us. You know, they worked hard. Give them credit. They came out and they wanted it more than we did, you know, or something along those lines. And as reporters, we just kind of accept it, be like, okay, that's just a bunch of word salad. And, you know, it is what it is. Kind of all that Donovan stuff we heard all back in the day. Well, we're going to get back to the film room and we'll work hard and we'll figure it out, blah, blah, blah. And all of us just kind of roll our eyes like, okay, all right, fine, whatever. We got our quote. Let's move on. But here's a guy that's like, wait a minute. No. I'm taking it a step further.
How do you get outworked?
So you said you got outworked. How do you get outworked in an NBA Eastern Conference Finals game when you had a chance to close them out and get to Oklahoma City as fast as you can, whereas that team is going to be freakishly talented and it will be a big-time favorite over you? And now guess what? They're going to have another 2 or 3 days of rest because of what happened tonight. So how does that happen? How do you not play with the urgency that you need to try to – we can get losing. You know, losing happens. But fans don't like it when they hear a team say, oh, no, they wanted it more than we did. Well, wait a minute. How does that happen? We understand they made more shots or they played better, you know, for whatever reason. But to say, no, they worked harder than us. Totally fair question to ask. All right, we'll wrap this up next. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.